Hello, this is Matthew from Rock Paper Shotgun, and you are watching World War Z, or World War Z if you're an American, which is a Left 4 Dead type thing from Saber Interactive based on the popular film from a few years ago. It's a bit of a mystery why it's coming out now, so many years after the film, but here we are. It's basically a third person Left 4 Dead, and I'm going to talk you through one of the levels. This is the first level of the New York stage, which is one of 4 locations. There's also Moscow, Tokyo, and Jerusalem. So like the film, it kind of goes all over the globe. You're not playing as Brad Pitt, as you can see. We're playing as, I think this guy's called Angel. A bit like Left 4 Dead, there are 4 characters that you play as, and they kind of have banter and they throw chat around. One thing I will point out about this demo is that this accidentally recorded some of the voice chat, so you'll hear the voice of like the games producer telling people how to pick up guns. So we're going to try and alter the volume levels so you don't all hear that. But yes, we're starting off in New York. We're going to glitch through a door first. That's a good start. And yeah, try and highlight some of the differences. And one of the major differences, obviously, is that it's in third person, which gives it a slightly different sort of perspective on things. You have to be very careful with where you're standing and shooting, because friendly fire is on at all times. One of the way the game differentiates its difficulty modes is how much damage friendly fire does, so you just have to be aware of where everyone's at. But for the time being, we'll kind of go off and do our own thing and wade in and hack people up. A big difference between this and Left 4 Dead is that it has character classes and perks attached to those character classes. So I'm playing here as the Gunslinger, which is your very basic kind of jack-of-all-trades sort of starter class. It gives him a frag grenade and a compact SMG to start the level with. He can also automatically mark special zombies, who I'll mention in a bit, and he can reduce friendly fire and get buffs for killing in succession. There's multiple levels. You get XP for playing as any class, and then you unlock new perks which you have to choose between. So there's a little bit more depth to it than Left 4 Dead, where everyone was kind of very much an equal character. You also get a demolition class called Hellraiser. There's Medic, which, surprise surprise, gives you medikits and things like that. There's the Fixer, who has a supply bag which drops ammo, sort of very much the support class. There's a Slasher, who's a melee expert, can do more swings with weapons. I'll show you a very tasty heavy melee weapon that I get a bit later. And finally there is the Exterminator, who is really good against the Hordes. And you'll see in a bit, the Hordes are another of the game's sort of slightly more impressive features. So here we found 2 heavy. There's a big automatic shotgun, or the Forest Warrior chainsaw. Obviously I went for the chainsaw because, you know, that's the fantasy, isn't it? Chopping zombies up, sawing into them. It's relatively gentle in this playthrough. This was the second difficulty level of 5, and I felt like because we had the producer, we were pretty kind of on top of the action for most of the time, so it never got too hairy. One thing it does have, as I mentioned earlier, it has like special zombie types. Again, very Left 4 Dead. There's like a big bulky one called the Bull, who kind of charges out of nowhere and sort of thunders into you. He's a bit like the tank. There's this guy who's the Hazmat. He will explode in a big thing of gas unless you shoot me in the head. I didn't know this, so I just walked into him with a chainsaw because I'm an idiot. And yeah, that just creates like a big area of toxic nastiness, so he's basically the boomer, for want of a better word. There are also lurkers, who are basically the hunters. They hide and they jump out at you, and there are screamers, who, if they see you, they will draw the horde towards you. There is a stealth element to the game, like all the characters have silenced pistols, and you can take areas quietly without alarming the horde, though this doesn't really happen on our playthrough, as you've seen so far. We just kind of wade in. On lower difficulties, the stealth isn't as important, I was told, but on later difficulties, to conserve ammo and whatnot, you have to take it carefully. One of the things, if you've seen the film, that's really kind of specific to World War Z, is this vast zombie horde, which the game tries to capture in kind of background details, you can see them charging down the street, which is just a graphical effect. They're not actually there, they're not the physical zombies. But when you look down into the shopping centre in a moment, you'll see that there are vast numbers of zombies there. It has way more zombies than you'd ever see on screen in Left 4 Dead, and the way they interact as a kind of swarm and horde is a bit more specific. Okay, this isn't a real thing, like it's just a graphical effect happening in the background, but that's pretty cool. I like that. I like the kind of mad chaos of it all. We were encouraged to explore this shopping centre for weapons, but we didn't do it because you'll see. I saw a load of zombies and I wanted to see what they looked like when they hoarded together, so I threw a grenade into the meat of them, and yes, splat. And then they all suddenly just go "Rah!" and become the horde. There is this like zombie horde physics at play. So if you've seen the film, these zombies they're like ants. They kind of gather on top of each other and build kind of big piles that they can climb up to reach higher levels. I'm told this is dynamic. I must admit, every time I've seen this level being played, they always build up against this back wall down below. Unfortunately, I got a bit distracted by my chainsaw at this point. Yeah, you can see here they kind of climb up and form new routes. So if you can keep the horde suppressed by shooting at the base or throwing grenades, you'll knock down that pile. Interestingly, a lot of the perks about explosives talk about the number of zombies the explosive will work on. So rather than just a vague damage, it will say, like, this grenade will take out 25 zombies, or you can boost it to take out 30. So it's very much about, like, thinning the numbers. And chopping off legs with a lovely chainsaw, which I'm running very low on heavy ammo. You can see down there in the bottom right a little flashing 7, but I wasn't paying attention to that. Yes, chop chop. And then it leaves me with my slightly rubbish machine gun. But because we haven't taken down this horde, they'll keep climbing up, but if you shoot down at them, you can knock down the pile and stop them from climbing. Flat. I should note as well, this is Xbox One capture. I don't think it was the Xbox One X, which is why maybe there's a few frame rate hitches. It's only 1080p in this capture, so we all hope to get the PC version. It is out tomorrow, so hopefully we won't have to wait that long. There's the basic interplay between the different characters in terms of medkits. You can heal each other. Obviously, if you have a medic class character, they'll be doing a lot more for you. They can heal the group. It boosts everyone's like medic abilities. Oh, there's this Hazmat again. I find these special zombies a little undercooked. Like, there's lots of times that you hear the characters go, we got a bull, we got a lurker, we got a this, and actually the thing would have been killed by one person before it turned out. It wasn't like in Left 4 Dead when those special zombies turn up, they are a genuine threat. I mean, there's certainly nothing as scary as the witch, or something that changes your behaviour like the witch, where everyone would have to slow down and turn their flashlights off and try and avoid finding her. Here, it's I felt like they're one of the more undercooked elements of the game. This is something which is a bit more specific to World War Z. This is a swarm defense area where basically you are under siege for a while, and you get these yellow boxes which let you place certain defenses in kind of one of a few predetermined places. So you can get like barbed wire and place it. I had this auto turret, so I could put it here at the top of the stairs. I could put it at the bottom of the stairs. You don't have total freedom, so it's not like you can craft this incredibly careful siege scenario, but you have some freedom over where you place them, which is kind of a bit of a different twist. Left 4 Dead was very big into the zombies are going to swarm you in this one location, and it was a bit more just about juggling your very finite resources rather than kind of prepping for it. It also means, we can assume these sieges will always happen in kind of quite predetermined places, which I guess is okay. I didn't feel like, having seen other people play the demo before me, there were many surprises in where the zombies turned up. Like, there is a kind of an AI director type thing in the background, kind of changing the makeup of the levels in certain ways, but it felt quite prescribed. But then again, it gives you these big mad cinematic moments where zombies throw themselves out of windows, which is, God, they are so hungry for you, and they really come at you down the street, which I guess is the kind of payoff for having these more scripted moments. Is, yes, they are kind of guaranteed spectacle. One of the things that AI sort of director will change is what defences it gives you in these areas. So here we had barbed wire, which let us block off one of the pathways, which forces the zombies up here, and then we also had the auto turret, which I've put down here, so all the zombies who are kind of shepherded around here can't get through. This blue glass, incidentally, that kind of masks you from the zombies as well. But if you're playing on harder modes, you might be given worse items to lay down, no items. You don't know what items you're going to find in these kind of swarm defence moments, so that's one area where that difficulty kind of tweaking will be a bit more kind of keenly felt. And it's very satisfying in a kind of quite a broad, sort of messy way. I actually find it, Left 4 Dead way more stressful in terms of just the constant fear and they're really in your face, and maybe it's the first person perspective that does that. Here it feels like a little broader, like there's a bit more kind of splattery fun. I think because the Horde is so much bigger, they can make you feel a bit more powerful. As I'll point out a bit later, you'll see when we go down into the underground, there are areas where I wish it was a bit more intense. Like, again, could be that low difficulty we're playing on, but, I didn't feel like the game was automatically adjusting itself to kind of keep us sort of in a highly stressed sort of zone, which is kind of the pitch of their kind of dynamic difficulty. The idea that you should always be on the edge of your seat and never quite have what you need to get through. But we were quite comfortable in how we were taking things out. Just while we're exploring the slightly empty streets, again, maybe there'll be zombies here on another playthrough. A quick bit about the weapons. So every weapon you use has its own kind of XP system. It's leveling up. This in turn unlocks customized versions of that weapon. So, you can have a pistol and then there may be like 10 variants, and the last one's got all these amazing scopes and laser sights and all this jazz on it. So there's a bit more to kind of get invested in. Interestingly, you still have to find those weapons, so even if you kind of select like the best assault rifle as your assault rifle, you'd still have to find the assault rifle in the level, unless you have a character class who some of the perks let you bring certain levels in. So this guy always starts with like an SMG, but some of his later perks lets him bring in certain weapons. So you may want to focus on leveling up certain weapons. Otherwise, it feels like, it's going to be a bit of a kind of lucky dip. Like you'll level up the weapons you tend to find the most. Doesn't allow you to kind of build a loadout as such, but I do like the idea that you'll be gradually kind of improving everything, whether it's your character class or the weapons skills, and you have something, a sense of progression that you maybe don't have in Left 4 Dead, which is very much a, just play it, like there's increased difficulties and there's the sort of the fun of playing with your friends, but it doesn't have much shape to it beyond that. The question is whether this has the difficulty scale to it to make those rewards feel worthwhile. Like, are you going to get invested in developing these characters? Yeah, this is actually another special zombie quickly. This is the bull, who everyone in the game's like, oh no, it's the bull, but we just shot him pretty easily. He's pretty nasty if he does charge into you, but compared to like the Left 4 Dead tank, when that turned up and you'd have a proper fight in your hands, it feels relatively gentle. That was me throwing a grenade at my own party, which obviously not great with friendly fire. In my defence, this is the first time I've played the game, trying to get my hand around the controls. It's got a bit more life to it in terms of other characters than Left 4 Dead and other games like it. You meet people. It has that kind of slight sort of sheen of a film license in that you meet other characters. There's a bit more story in the levels. Again, it means certain things feel a bit more prescribed, like you come to this train and he goes to send you to get these 2 crates. But it gives it a better sense of the world. I guess they want to kind of tap into the license a bit more. So again, we never quite see the kind of swarm properly explode in these sort of interior locations in this demo. You know, you had the bit in that big kind of office building when they're in the lobby, it's quite impressive. Here, you know, even though the engine can do hundreds of zombies, you don't necessarily sort of feel that or see that just due to how kind of constrained the environment is. You know, I'd be interested to see, you know, how the game kind of deals with that in later levels. Like in some of the trailers, you know, it looks like you're in these quite tight spaces and they're absolutely rammed with just people crawling over each other, and it looks pretty full on. But this was quite gentle, this particular level. I also felt like it had a kind of slightly weird pacing to it, in that we had that siege moment in the larger building, and we had the kind of zombies building up to a pile, which felt like sort of slightly more kind of peak stress moments. But this, which is the natural conclusion for level, just feels a little smaller. In Left 4 Dead, obviously, the levels would build to those sort of desperate last-ditch attempts to save yourself whilst you're waiting for a timer to tick down so you could get out of there and save yourself. This doesn't really tap into that, and that might just be because it's part one of a 3-part story in this particular location. This is part one of the New York campaign, and maybe those kind of climaxes come a bit later, in some of the later stages. But in this one, I thought it was relatively safe throughout. Yeah, this guy knew what he was doing. He was shooting the Hazmat guy in the head, so he didn't flood it with gas. Again, with all of this, it may just be that we had, when you've got the guy who made the game on your team, you tend to do a bit better. Yeah, just exploring around for some of those weapons. He said these are the weapons which you've leveled up, so before I went into the stage I'd already gone through the menus and selected some of the better versions of these, so when I found the bullpup rifle in the game, I could have the better version that I'd earned in other levels. This is the lurker. You'll see very much like the hunter, jumping out of nowhere onto his back, but again pretty safe, pretty sedate, wasn't too complicated. And it all ends in this train where, we'd split up as a group, gone off to get our packages, and then we just had to hold down the train. And this is the kind of moment where you'd expect the zombies to just really come at you, and you'd be like, oh man, this is going to be hell on earth, how are we going to get out of this? But as you'll see, it's relatively soft. I think this is actually one zombie apocalypse that I might survive, which would be good, compared to Left 4 Dead, where I had a terrible success rate. It's just a case of shooting them out the window, and off we go. But that is basically the run-through of the first level. As you see in cutscene go off, and you'll see a bit of the levelling. This is out tomorrow on PC. It is an Epic Games Store exclusive, which I know everyone hates. I was talking to the producer of the game, and he was saying that it actually allowed them to do a much cheaper version of it on PC. So I think it's about £32 on PC, and he said that saving came from the kind of money they got through exclusivity with Epic Games Store, which, maybe counterbalances the kind of irritation of having to split between these different services. I mean, different people have a different stance on this. Personally, I like to see a tangible handout from the developer, so the money there is actively kind of manifesting as a discount. But for some people, they just won't be interested. We're obviously going to play a load of this on PC when it comes out tomorrow, have a proper verdict on how the game holds up. I thought it was pretty solid. Like I said, it lacked the drama, it lacked the core thrill of Left 4 Dead at its best. But it was quite polished. It's quite fun. I like the zombie horde, and I'm definitely up for more. So stick around for a bit more on this. Bye for now.